Hey everyone, welcome to the SuperDraft lineup building show here on RotoGrinders. I am Stevie TPFL. We're here to talk some football and build some lineups over there on SuperDraft, and I'm joined by the dude that took down the NBA tournament over there on SuperDraft last night, Genifro7. Grant, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm the best around. No one's going to ever bring me down. Love me some SuperDraft. Very good site. Our sponsors. And even if they weren't our sponsors, still talk about them. Love the site. Excited for basketball tonight. Excited for football this weekend. Excited for the 80K red zone. All right, that's enough of whatever it's called.
I don't even know where to go from there. So I'm just going to say, if you haven't checked out SuperDraft, it's superdraft.io. Use the promo code Grinders. An awesome site. We're going to build lineups here. They've overlaid every week. They overlay every night for NBA. If you're a low stakes player, if you're just trying to build a bankroll, SuperDraft is an awesome site because it's overlaying enough where you're hardly paying any rake, if any at all. So if you haven't checked them out, use the promo code Grinders. That way you get your $10 for free once you make your first deposit over there. So let's jump into it here, Grant. As always, we kind of just go position by position on the lineup building show and, just talk about cash games and tournament plays. Let's start over here at quarterback like we usually do, and let's look at 1 to like the 1.35 range. Pretty wide range here. One of my favorite plays on the weekend is Matthew Stafford going up against Oakland. 1.15 just doesn't seem like enough for a quarterback.
I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. 1.15. I guess let me rephrase that. I like him. In the smaller tier, he gives you not as much upside, but he gives you a super solid floor. His terms projections, I think I have him at the 8th most for a quarterback just because there are a few guys in the 1.5, 1.4 plus range that are very, very good plays and have the potential for a huge upside. But I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like Stafford's probably my second QB when it comes to cash, just because there's one drastic mispricing here or two drastic mispricings. But Stafford's definitely the favorite of this group. I mean, he's going up against Oakland. It's going to be a high-scoring game. We know Oakland has a bit of that funnel defense where they would like to make you pass the ball more. They have a good run defense. And the running backs for Detroit are just not great at this point. The best one is probably McKissick, and he's more of use in the passing game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. So I do like Stafford the most out of anyone in this range. But honestly, Winston sitting there at 1.2 is not the worst, and Allen at 1.2 is not the worst idea in the world either. Like, I don't have any interest in Wilson, Rodgers, or even Mahomes if he ends up playing. But those guys in the 1.25 or 1.15 to 1.2 range are all pretty interesting outside of Cousins. They all have big upside. They all have decent floors. They all could put up a 30-point game by themselves before their multipliers. But Stafford's definitely the one that stands out the most.
Kind of scrolling down here in this like 1.4 to 1.5 range. We have the Baker Mayfields, the Ryan Fitzpatricks, Mason Rudolphs, Kyle Allens, Ryan Tannehills of the world. Are any of these guys like cash game plays for you, or do you think these guys are more like tournament plays?
They're more tournament plays. I don't really have interest in too many guys between 1.2 and 1.4. 1.45. It's Derek Carr's the guy. I mean, it's going to be a high-scoring game. Carr has Terrell Williams back. They're going up against Detroit, who's been decent versus the past, and I actually think their defense has been underrated. But Carr's still a guy that can put up big yardage, big touchdown totals, can get that 300-yard bonus, which is massive when you're at a 1.4x multiplier. He's one of my favorite guys on the entire slate. Just a high-scoring game where they're probably going to end up passing the ball out. They're the underdogs, I believe, still. And so Carr, he offers you the most upside. I mean, Tannehill, not a huge amount of upside. They're going to run a ton. Carolina's a good defense. Brissett, Rudolph, both of them not great. So those are probably my favorite guys. The interesting one is Phillip Rivers. He going up against Green Bay, their running game has not been good. They're the underdogs in this game. They've had some tough matchups, which is why he hasn't put up big numbers. I mean, you look at his last 4 starts. Pittsburgh, which they just look awful in that Sunday Night Football game, and then Chicago, Tennessee, and Denver. We know all their defenses are good. We're not looking for huge points totals out of Rivers, but just good enough, and he's put up 300 yards and 6 games this season, I think, so far, 5 games this season. So he gets that chance at that 300-yard bonus. Rivers is the other guy that I like in this range. It's him and Carr. And honestly, for cash, I wouldn't mind using either of those guys.
Yeah, so like in regular salary formats, like I probably don't play Rivers a lot this week, just because like that funnel defense. But when we're looking at it as a whole here at 1.5, I think he's definitely in play. My favorite cash play, my favorite play on the slate, my favorite quarterback of the weekend is Mitch Trubisky. Going up against Philadelphia, we know that Philly's just terrible. We know Trubisky is a guy that can break slates, and he's sitting at 1.6. If you listen to the Morning Grind tomorrow, you're going to know how much I love Trubisky, but I'm starting my love right here and letting everybody know this is just a spot that I think he crushes. I think that, they come out and they have a big game here, and he's at 1.6, Grant. He's the guy that I kind of have locked in right now.
I mean, I don't hate that play, Trubisky at 1.6. Like, he does offer some upside. He's had a few 20-point games, and obviously the Philly pass defense is not good. I mean, Trubisky has been terrible this season, and he's semi-dead to me. But he's going to
He'll be dead to me this week if he stinks.
Yeah, he's not a bad play. I mean, I'm not on him nearly as high as you. SuperDraft is where I'd probably be playing him, but I think the most interesting guy is a 2X guy. You know who I'm talking about?
No, I missed it.
Brandon Allen.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just strictly because he's 2X, and then over on regular salary site, he's super cheap. You think he's 4-1 over on DK. He's going up against Cleveland. Cleveland's defense has not been great by any means, and like, we don't know how good he's going to be. We really don't know too much about him. All we know is basically what he's done in college, but this offense, like, we've seen Flacco put up big games, and I can't imagine any quarterback in the league being a downgrade from Flacco, so Allen's kind of the guy that I'm looking at here.
He has pieces too. Like he has guys around him that can make plays and stuff. So I like that call because if you think about it, like if he falls into 2 touchdowns here, which not saying that he's going to, but I'm not saying he's not either, then, 2 touchdowns, he ends up with like 16, 17 regular points. We're looking at like 30 to 35 points, and like getting those multipliers, we talk about it each and every week we do this show, is super important. So I like the Allen call at 2X. Is there anybody else that we missed that we didn't really talk about? We don't have to worry about the Cincinnati situation this week because they're on bye. Did we miss anything, or do you think we got it all?
I mean, Fitzmagic going up against the Jets. Jets don't have a great defense, but 1.5, I'd rather just roll with Trubisky or Rivers there.
Yeah, Trubisky for sure. So who do you want to put in here for cash games?
Well, we can go with Trubisky if you like him enough. He's not at the top of my list. I'd say Rivers is probably the guy at the top of my list, but Trubisky's fine.
All right, let's go over to running back. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook at the top here. They're both in phenomenal spots. Like McCaffrey just because he's going to get a massive amount of work, and Dalvin Cook because Kansas City can't stop anybody on the ground. Do they warrant plays here at all to you, just raw points-wise, because you're not really getting any multipliers from them?
I mean, CMC, sorry for the dog in the background, CMC is the one guy that I would actually consider here because he has a 30-point upside at any given time. He has 40-point upside at any given time. That's what you're kind of looking for on SuperDraft here. You can get the 100-yard multiplier on both. Gosh darn it, dog. What is he barking at? He can get the 100-yard multiplier on both running and receiving here. He's going to get a whole bunch of receptions. It is only half-point PPR, but that doesn't really matter to me too much. But outside of him at this 1 to 1.25 range, he's the only guy I'd consider.
Yeah, I don't hate Aaron Jones. Obviously, we got to see what's going on with James Conner because if he's out like that, allows – I don't even know what Samuel's multiplier is. I haven't looked yet, but – so it seems like this week we have a huge gap between McCaffrey, Cook, and the rest of all the running backs. So let's go down to this 1.35 to 1.6 range. What are you liking here when it comes to running backs for cash games and tournaments?
I mean, Chubb, he got a decent matchup versus Denver going up against a rookie quarterback. Like, Denver does have a decent run defense, but Chubb is just a fantastic running back, and he's probably one of the best in the league. And at a 1.35x multiplier – with a 100-yard rushing bonus, he's a great option. Carson, I'm okay with. Like, not really in love. Tampa Bay has way too good of a run defense. 1.35, considering his volume or potential volume, is really good. But like this is where I'm looking at a lot of running backs. It's Chubb, Carson is not there. Bell and Jacobs are the other two guys. Like Jacobs is getting a 1.5x multiplier. It's going to be a huge scoring game there. Total is through the roof. Jacobs 1.5, considering his talent and how much he's going to be involved in the offense, is big. And then Bell just keeps destroying me week in and week out. But that doesn't matter. Like 1.45x multiplier. He's got to have a decent game versus Miami. He's just terrible on defense. Like he's a fantastic play and crushed my heart and soul last week, but I don't think he's going to do it again.
And if he does, I'm going to go down on the ship with you on Lev Bell for sure. I don't really like Carson this week. I think this is a week you play the passing game for Seattle, that funnel defense. And Jacobs is interesting. You know, we talked about that game being high scoring. They've allowed a lot of running back points this season. Jacobs is definitely interesting. Derrick Henry, touchdown equity is high in a matchup against Carolina. We just watched Telvin Coleman have a monster game against them. You know, the Denver running back situation, I think that, you know, it's really become like a 50-50 split there, but I think both of those guys are in play with a young quarterback. What are your thoughts when we get in this 1.6 to 1.7 range?
Had myself muted. Lindsay, if Royce Freeman is going to be out, it doesn't look like he is, but that's something you should watch. If Lindsay's going to be the main bell cow, he's probably my top guy for cash and probably my top guy for tournaments. 1.6x multiplier. Don't mind him or Royce Freeman if both of them are playing either. Montgomery had a good week last week. 27 carries. Like, if this is going to continue, he has some GBP appeal here. Outside of them, like, I hate saying this. I really hate saying this, but Mark Walton.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not happy about it, but he's involved in the receiving game. He gets an actual good matchup going up against the Jets here. It should be a fairly close game. I really, really don't like it, but just the potential volume you can have in the game script makes me think about him quite a bit.
Played 95% of the snaps on Monday night against Pittsburgh. Only 11 carries, but he had 6 targets. You're getting a nice multiplier here on him. Walton at 1.75. It's the Jets. They allow the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. But, you know, we keep hearing that the Jets defense is really good against the run, and they just really haven't been this season. So I definitely like that. You know, we talked about Freeman. Anybody else down here? Like Adrian Peterson's down here. Jalen Samuels is your guy if Connor doesn't play. Like Jalen Samuels is your high-end cash game play. I'd be overweight on him in tournaments too, for what it's worth at 1.85.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a similar scenario to what we saw last week when we had Latavius Murray sitting there at a high multiplier. He was 70% owned or 60% owned. I think I had 90% of him. So it's one of those that you kind of hope that Connor does end up playing because it just makes the build a little bit better. But if not, then I wouldn't be surprised if I just locked him in entirely.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Like if Connor doesn't play, I'm just probably going to end up just locking him in. No reason not to. Is there anybody else down here that we're missing? Like you have Tariq Cohen, Chris Thompson could potentially be back this week. Is there anybody else down here?
I mean, those guys. Maybe Jordan Howard. Like, I know that Miles Sanders had the big game last weekend, but Howard had 23 rushing attempts. He's had some big games. He's going up against Chicago, who you're better off running against than you are passing. So we could see a large amount of volume for him. So, yeah, he's the guy. Someone just mentioned it in chat. Look at us. Look at us. Same page as chat.
I don't mind Jamal Williams for tournaments either, even with Aaron Jones. Jamal Williams is 1.7 multiplier, and they've been using both of these guys a lot, so I have no issues with a Jamal Williams play. Let's get 2 cash game running backs in here. Dare we say Lev Bell again? Yep,
going down with the ship.
Yeah, me too. And then the guy that I was kind of looking at was like Josh Jacobs or Phillip Lindsay. I think Jacobs' role is safer for cash games.
Yeah, I'd say Josh Jacobs. I don't mind Chubb either, though.
Yeah, we could go Chubb. That's fine with me. Chubb's at 1.35, and like you said, the 100-yard rushing bonus definitely in play. Let's talk wide receivers. On salary format sites, like wide receivers are really priced up this week. Do we see this being a week where like people, we can't play them everywhere else. Let's go to SuperDraft and let's play the studs. Do you think that might happen this week?
I mean, it's potential. It's a potential there, but like I don't like the multipliers. I don't like the 1.05 multiplier for Galladay or Diggs. Don't like the 1 for Lockett. Don't like the 1 for Godwin. I'm looking at the upper tier a lot more on SuperDraft than I even am on other sites. Like we got guys like Marvin Jones is a perfect swerve off of Galladay. The only guy that's really in contention at the lower range is using one of Evans or Godwin just because they have massive, massive upside every single week, and one of them is going to go off. So I'll be using a little bit of both of them in tournaments, but that's really it at the low range.
It's kind of how I feel. Like I don't see a ton of options in the 1 to 1-2 range at all. Like, you could fire shots here, but they have to have these monster like 30-point games, and like, yeah, Godwin or Evans could potentially get there. Lockett has the potential to get there. Galladay, maybe. But, kind of scrolling down here in this 1.2 to 1.4 range, we get Juju, Odell Beckham, Tyrell Williams, DK Metcalf. What are your thoughts here on these guys?
I like Metcalf. I think he offers some upside. I like Tyrell Williams a lot. I mean, he's a guy that I think he's had a touchdown in every game this season, if I remember correctly. 1.4, getting a touchdown. Massive upside. I like Sutton as a guy to pair with Allen. Like I really like him as a guy to pair with Allen. John Brown going up against Washington defense. We still haven't seen him have that absolute blow up game, but this could be the spot here. I mean, he's going up against a terrible pass defense, just a terrible defense overall. Josh Allen could go buck wild, and he's a great guy to pair up with Brown. He's one of the few guys that actually offer some upside at the QB position. McLaurin. Going up against Buffalo, not an easy matchup, but he's got speed, and it's a decent speed differential between him and the cornerback, if I saw correctly earlier today. I already mentioned Marvin Jones, 1.55x. Crowder going up against Miami. We've seen him get massive, massive volume of targets multiple times this season. We could potentially see it again. He's had some tough matchups going up against Dallas, New England, and Jacksonville recently. And so an actual good matchup going up against the Dolphins, where Sam Darnold may not see ghosts, could potentially offer some nice upside there.
Yeah, Miami can't get no pressure on Darnold. So, yeah, I don't mind Anderson. I definitely don't mind like Alshon Jeffrey. I think this is going to be the week that McLaurin is going to have the toughest matchup he's going to face. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. You already kind of mentioned Marvin Jones. You got Sammy Watkins down here, depending on the quarterback situation for Kansas City. Continuing to scroll down here, Grant, we get into this like nice little tournament range here where you got Jarvis Landry, you got the Tennessee and Carolina wide receivers. Is there any of these guys that are like standing out to you?
I mean, DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel are getting massive target shares in their offense. They're going up against Tennessee, which isn't a great matchup. And we didn't mention the other Allen over at quarterback. I don't know if he's a great play for cash, but for tournaments, just because the potential to pair him up with both DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel gives you massive, massive upside. They're both at 1.7x multipliers. They both could potentially be in for a big game. And we mentioned Phillip Rivers is one of my favorite plays. Pair him up with Mike Williams at 1.7x. Mike Williams, his touchdowns are going to come. He had massive touchdown equity last year. And he doesn't have a single one this year. He's getting targets most weeks, 6, 10, 13. And this is a matchup where they could potentially be throwing the ball a whole lot. So the volume will be there. The touchdowns should be there, and the yards will be there. He's one of the few guys in this range that has legit 30-point upside. He can get 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. It can absolutely happen. And if that happens at 1.7x, you're not taking down the GPP without him in your lineup.
There's some guys like Mike Williams is definitely a guy that I love this week. Preston Williams or Devontae Parker are interesting with Ryan Fitzpatrick just chucking. Johnson for Pittsburgh is interesting. Like Allison, depending on that situation, could be potentially interesting. Thomas for the Jets, like he's been a guy that has been converting a lot of his targets. And then like if you're playing Trubisky, like Taylor Gabriel or Miller, if you're not going to play A-Rob. So again, I love Trubisky this week. I think he has a big week. I think Taylor Gabriel has massive amount of upside. Like Philly is so bad at defending the long ball. Like, doesn't this just seem like a spot like Taylor Gabriel just runs past these guys and has a long touchdown if Trubisky doesn't throw a bad throw?
Son of a biscuit. Muting. I'm not good at today. Yeah, it's a potential GPP spot. He obviously has a massive amount of upside. So, absolutely.
All right, let's lock in some guys for cash games, Grant. I think we have to kind of look at like Tyrell Williams here, right? Like 1.4. You mentioned he's scored every week. I feel like he's a cash game play. Like it's Wednesday. We're looking at this as a first look. Do we throw Marvin Jones in there as well at 1.55?
Abso-fudgin-lutely.
Who do you like for our last piece here?
That's where it gets tough. Honestly, Lockett or DK Metcalf. Volume's going to be there. Tampa Bay is a funnel defense. One of the highest, or might actually be the highest total on the board. I say we go with, I don't like trusting him for cash, but DK.
Yeah, I almost rather not take the multiplier and just take Lockett, but I'm with you on
that too.
Like just because like it is a PPR site, so like Lockett is a guy that could have 8 to 12 catches in this game alone.
I think it's half point PPR.
Is it half point?
Yeah, it's half point.
Half point. Just joking.
You dummy. You dummy. Yeah. It's weird because it mixes both FanDuel and DraftKings scoring.
It does. That's what throws me off.
Yeah.
Let's do DK then because I like the touchdown equity. So there we go. Change my mind right on the fly. Let's look at tight end. I was looking at tight end last night after you and I got done recording the podcast for today. And I was looking at it and I was like, the guys that are in great spots are Waller and Kelsey and Henry. And they're all these top end multipliers. I don't ever hate playing these guys at tight end on this site. But like we have some interesting options when we scroll down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you're right with all those guys. They're all great plays. Kelsey draws a great matchup going up against Minnesota. For cash, I wouldn't mind looking at him. Finally ended up with a touchdown thrown by Matt Moore for some reason last week. But the touchdown equity is going to be there. He has potential 20-point game in him, so not much of a multiplier, but that's fine. Hunter Henry could be in for a good game. Not bad pairing with Phillip Rivers. Greg Olsen, 1.65x multiplier. We've seen a few big games out of him so far this year, and it's not a bad matchup going up against Tennessee. Where I'm really, really excited and really looking at is Philly. I mean, we have Zach Ertz, who not the same guy we've seen in the past, not getting the same volume we've seen in the past, but it is going up against a defense that has shut down opposing wide receivers. So if they're going to be throwing the ball, I think Goddard at 1.7 and Ertz at 1.4 offer you the most upside. One of those guys is probably going to go off here. Who is it going to be? I don't know, but with their multipliers, I'm willing to take a shot on either of them.
Yeah, and like Hawkinson, like I know this guy burns me like every week, and we talk about him, Bell burning us, but like Hawkinson, Oakland has been terrible against tight ends this season. So Hawkinson is interesting to me at 1.7 if you're not going like Galladay or you can go Hawkinson and Marvin Jones in my opinion if you think Stafford's going to throw 3+ touchdowns here. So the Colts tight ends are interesting. Ebron at 1.65, Jack Doyle at 1.75, but it's been tough kind of figuring out which of these two tight ends is going to crush this season. And just in general, like the targets, the snaps, the routes, everything is just so close.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, either one of them are fine. They're big enough multipliers where you can easily take a shot on them. I'm probably going to stay away. One guy we didn't mention, if O.J. Howard is out, is Cameron Brate. 1.7x multiplier, has touchdown equity. tight end's kind of trash, like over on SuperDraft, and so you're just looking for a guy who could potentially give you over 20 points. And Braid, if OJ Howard is out, is he questioning? Yeah, he's questionable still. Going up in Seattle, high scoring game. I like Braid.
Yep, don't hate that. Trey Burton, again, I love Chicago. I love Trubisky. Don't mind Trey Burton at 1.8. If Walker doesn't play, Smith has a multiplier that's kind of high, but like he's not getting like that massive, upside there. But just kind of Greg Olsen, I guess, would be another guy that we kind of have to mention, like with Kyle Allen at quarterback.
Well, thanks for mentioning that. Even though I already did, darn it. Yeah, it just went over real quickly.
Chat distracted me. My bad.
It's all good. Podcasts were recorded Monday night. We're all distracted. It's just an ugly slate. So you get distracted just in your own self-hatred of the fact that you're going to end up playing a lot of money this week and nothing's going to go your way.
What do you like here for cash games, though? Honestly, I don't mind playing Waller or Kelsey in cash. Ertz at 1.4. Brady would probably be my cash game play if OJ Howard doesn't play.
Yeah. I think that right now let's just throw in Kelsey just because, like, the volume's there. If Mahomes plays, it just gives him an even bigger bump. But he's probably my guy.
Yeah, and people forget, like, Watkins being back and Tyreek Hill being back. Like, it's certainly going to help Kelsey. Like, it's going to definitely open things up. So if you guys want us to build any tournament lineups over here at or any, like, game stacks or anything, we can do that. Let's build a tournament team, Grant. We always typically build the highest total on the slate. Is that what you want to do here?
Yeah, I mean, Seattle. Oh, no, that's not really what I want to do. I want to build one with let's go under the assumption that Royce Freeman does miss, and let's use a Broncos game stack.
All right. Taking all the multipliers.
Yeah, so if we take Allen, we take Sutton, and we take Lindsey, then Lindsey should get some pass game work here, so the offense more upside, and Sutton is just a guy that if Allen goes off, Sutton's going to be in for a massive game.
Yeah. So, like, is there anybody you would run it back with on Cleveland? Like, I don't hate
Dub.
Yeah, I don't hate Chubb. I don't hate Landry either at 1.6.
Yeah, that's not a terrible move. I mean, he offers you the 100-yard bonus. He has some touchdown equity, and if volume's going his way, then he could be in for a big game.
Yeah. I think I'm going to throw in Landry on this one. Oops, I messed that up. But so we have Allen, Lindsey, Landry, Sutton. Is there like a running back wide receiver combo like stack that you don't mind to throw in like a double game stack here?
Let's go
to running back and look.
Actually, no, I've got it. Samuels or DJ Moore and Derrick Henry.
Samuels and Derrick Henry. We already have one running back. Do you want to just use the flex?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Never mind. I messed it up.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Jalen Samuels. I get Curtis.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Well, and if we have Lindsey in there, this week is a week where you're using running back and flex. Wide receivers kind of trash. Like the only time you can use one in the flex is at a 1.7x multiplier.
So I like this game stack. High multipliers. If you get a couple touchdowns here, it's definitely very interesting for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to do we just got DJ news that he's a game time decision and Edmonds out. Do you want to do one of the single game builds?
Sure, we can go.
It's a big GPP. It's 12.5K. So it could be fun.
Let's do it. I like their single entry. You just saw my lineup. There you go. You can see my placeholder lineup if you pause the screen there. So Let's talk captain spot. So captain spot over there on SuperDraft is a 1.5 multiplier increase, correct? Or is it just mixed?
That is correct. It's 1.5.
Who do you like here for captain?
I think Kittle or Coleman offers you the most upside. 2.1x multipliers. Both those guys are very good plays. Both of them have, like Arizona, we know how bad they've been against the tight ends. So Kittle, like potential 100 yards, 2-touchdown game. Coleman, we know how much they like to run the ball. Arizona's defense isn't good versus the run either. So potential upside there. The interesting thing is the running back situation. So if DJ doesn't play, Drake's sitting there in the captain spot at a 3.05x multiplier. Is he going to get all the work, or is it going to be Morris?
I don't know. It's tough to say, right? Because we really don't know.
That is correct. We definitely don't know. But looking at more, like, you got to be a little bit different on these things. And Alfred Morris, 4x, like if he just 4x multiplier, if he gets into the end zone, that's an automatic 24 points plus the yardage. Like, he's pretty interesting, and so is Drake. Like, I think you can use either of them in tournaments, but for cash, I think the right move is going with Kittle in the captain spot.
Yeah, I like Kittle as well. If you saw my lineup, that's who I had in there. So, when I'm building out teams here, like, I will definitely throw in like Coleman with Kittle. No issues with that. You got to have somebody on the Arizona side. Do you take Kyler Murray, or do you take one of these high multiplier like running backs or something?
I generally go with quarterbacks, but this is not the right matchup here. Kyler Murray is sitting at a 1x multiplier. That's not enough considering how good the San Francisco defense is. So we got to look at probably wide receiver or running back. If DJ is out, as much as I hate to say it, I'm probably going with Drake. 2x multiplier, got to think that he's going to do something. Like, I don't mind Fitz or Kirk or, let's be honest, Gonzalez sitting there, kicker, 2x multiplier. They are not great in the red zone. They could easily end up kicking several field goals, especially against the San Francisco defense. Bring it back with only a kicker and then full stacking the San Francisco team may not be positive correlation, just because if the San Francisco team is way up, then they're probably not going to try and kick over in Arizona. But still, all he needs is 1 or 2 kicks early on in the game, and he can hit value.
Yeah, and you got to remember with a 2x multiplier on field goals, like it's 6 points every field goal. Assuming that they're short. Yeah, assuming that they're short. So I don't mind running it back with Gonzalez or Drake. I like the 4-man San Francisco stack. That defense has just been so good that I think Arizona is going to struggle in this game with young Kyler Murray there. It's Thursday night, though. You never know. Never know.
Yeah. Thursday is just always an interesting game.
All right, we did that. If there was no request for game stacks here, we can do one more game stack and then maybe do a little bit of NBA. I think I went back to the Thursday night one. Whoops. Rookie mistake.
Silly duck.
Rookie mistake. Oh, you can see my lineup you saw both my lineups. There you go. Like, moving up in the world. Let's do a game stack with the Lions and Raiders game. I know that, there are some really solid multipliers here when we look at it overall, but it has one of the highest totals on the slates. It should be one of the highest scoring games, if not the highest scoring game. And, when we were kind of going through here, we were talking about some of these guys and we're like, that multiplier is interesting. So, let's start it off with Derek Carr, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can go Stafford, you can go Derek Carr. Either one of them are fine. It all depends on what you want to stack it up with. Going Derek Carr, all I think with that multiplier that we need is Tyrell Williams. If we're going with Stafford, you stack it up with Hawkinson and Marvin Jones.
Yeah, if you go Carr, let's do this. Let's go Carr, Williams, Jones, Hawkinson. Sounds juicy, right?
Yeah, that is juicy.
Like, we get the high end multipliers. We're fading Waller and we're fading Galladay, like the two popular type plays here. It seems like an interesting build when you're looking at it when you got the multipliers in front of you.
Yeah, and I mean, we can add Jacobs in.
Yeah. It's a 50.5 total. We have one other game. The Seahawks game is a 50.5 total. But when we look at the rest of these games on this slate, we have a lot of low 40s and high 30s. Like, this is a game that really stands out when you're taking advantage of the multipliers.
Yeah, it absolutely does, my friend.
So if you're stacking this up, I kind of think it will be pretty popular, don't you? Like, it should end up being pretty popular.
Like, high multipliers and high total, that's just a complete recipe for high ownership.
Let's throw in a running back here, Grant. Is there anybody like that you think will be low owned? Like Walton, maybe?
Yeah, Walton will be low owned.
Especially if Connor doesn't play.
What about Melvin Gordon?
Oh, Melvin Gordon. Green Bay funnel defense. Melvin Gordon, his 2 yards per carry.
I mean, if you're 2 yards away from the end zone, he can get it.
That is true. He scored a touchdown in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's the touchdown guy. I mean, we keep saying that his touchdown regression is going to happen after the last few years and just doesn't. In the last 2 weeks, touchdown equity's been there, even though he's been complete trash.
I like it. Melvin Gordon on a chalky Detroit Oakland build. I'm going to throw in Taylor Gabriel. I had talked about him earlier. I like him for tournaments, just to throw one in there. And we have a tight end, so we'll leave the flex open, and you can do whatever you want with the flex there. But you get a really, probably popular stack with some contrarian pieces next to it. I like it. You gonna unmute your mic?
Son of a biscuit. It's been a rough day. I've been working since – I worked until 3 a.m. last night, and then been working since 8 a.m. So long day already.
All right, let's talk some basketball. Let's talk some hoops. SuperDraft over there, NBA product. They do have late swap. Late swap actually cost me last night. I swapped off Anthony Davis. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, it cost me from getting first and second, I think, because the Anthony Davis news came out, and I think my lineup that got in the 8 spot or something like that, it had someone else because of Anthony Davis. I had LeBron and Anthony Davis in there, and so I'm like, all right, well, if Anthony Davis goes out, I have no one to swap to, and I can't remember who I swapped to, but it didn't work out well.
All right, looking at guard position here, Grant, we got about 15-ish minutes, 10 minutes. Producer will let me know what time we get out of here. I don't remember. Looking at the guard position here, is there anybody in this 1 to 1.25 range that you would play?
Steph going up against Phoenix?
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be chucking. He's got upside of that multiplier.
Booker too, though, right? Booker, isn't he interesting here?
Yeah. I mean, Booker's not a bad play at all. I mean, he has some upside in any given game, and this is a game where Golden State's been terrible on defense. He could put up a massive game here.
In salary formats, I like Kyrie because I feel like he's underpriced. He's not really underpriced too much here. When you're looking at the 1.05 multiplier and 60 fantasy points, that's still fantastic if he has that high upside game. Let's scroll down a little bit here. Bradley Beal was one of the first guys that kind of stood out to me in this range at 1.3. Going up against Houston, we know for this game to stay close, Bradley Beal is probably going to have a big game. Yeah, no, and 1.3, considering his 60-point upside, 1.3, that's 80-point upside. So I really like him. You're dead on there. Mitchell going up against the Clippers, probably not a great one. Russell, again, I just prefer Steph. Levine always has 60-point upside. De'Aaron Fox is a guy that, going up against Charlotte, terrible on defense. He's been a little bit of a disappointment at times this year, but dude still has 50-point upside, and this is a spot where I think it could potentially happen. Barrett, have we gotten the DSJ news yet? He's out.
All right. Yeah, so Barrett, I mean, look at his he's 1.45x multiplier. Last 4 games, 47, 37, 38, 33. 1.45x multiplier. You're not going to argue with any of those games. Really like Barrett there. And then Lowry going up against Detroit here. 1 game under 37, or no games under 37 points this year. has 50-point upside. He's been good. He's playing minutes. This is a good matchup here. It's not a high total, but still, like Lowry, really like him at 1.45x multiplier.
Our boy SGA that we talked about a lot on the podcast today, I like him at 1.45 as well. Scrolling down, Buddy Hield, nice little tournament upside there. Is it Hield? Hyde?
No, I was. Chop always says Buddy Hyde. It makes me chuckle, so I refuse to call him by anything else.
And then Brogdon's probably my favorite play at guard. We talked about him a ton on the podcast today. He's sitting at 1.55. Eventually, SuperDraft will raise his multiplier because, I feel like every night I've played over there that he's been on the slate, he's just been a staple for me.
Yeah, and then even Lou Williams with the Kawhi news could see an uptick in usage. It's not a great matchup, but 1.55x multiplier. 50-point upside.
Like that, Fred VanVleet, Ricky Rubio. We missing anybody? Anybody else you want to bring up?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's kind of it. We broke down a lot of guards on the podcast today. So
if you guys aren't listening to the morning grind, go listen to it because we are geniuses.
Yeah, that's where you should start your day every day. Forward position. Now, forward's interesting, right, Grant? Because you got Giannis at the top, who has a 1x multiplier, and then it goes all the way down to Randall at 1.3. So they're saying that Giannis is a 0.3 multiplier better than everybody else on this slate.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
It's probably close.
I mean, you think about that 0.3 multiplier difference. Just do the math here. If you're projecting Giannis for 70, what you need out of everyone else is going to be around 50 plus next closest guy. Can Randall go for 50? Yes. Is he going to? Probably not. Is Love going to go for 50? Maybe. He only needs a 45. Siakam only needs 45. Keep scrolling down. You got Sabonis. He needs about 40. 42. Tatum needs 42. All these guys, they need to hit value, or they need to get in the 40 range. Any of them can do it, but Giannis is pretty much a lock for close to 70 points.
Scrolling down, Kevin Love at 1.4. I think he's a guy you can look at. Siakam, even up against Detroit here, I think those guys really stand out at 1.4. And then you already, brought up some of the 1.5 plays. Bogdanovic with no Kawhi is definitely interesting. Scrolling down, you like anybody else down here? Do you trust Willie Cauley-Stein enough at 1.6x?
No, not at 1.6. In the same range, you got Warren, you got Green, both offer upside. You got Porter offers some upside if he plays, which he should. Not really a whole lot else I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm just kind of Frank the Tank is fine, I guess. I don't hate him at 1.7 in that game going up against Golden State. I didn't really see a lot in that 1.9 range, 1.8 range today when I was looking at it. I just don't see Rodney Hood, who might score 20 to 25 fantasy points, being enough at 1.85 to outscore these 1.4 guys.
Yeah, you want a minimum of 30 out of your guy. Real life non-multiplier points, no matter what. So if the guy isn't pretty much a stone cold lock for 30 or a very good chance for 30 on a slate this size, you don't want him unless he has legit 50-point upside at a 1.8x multiplier.
Oh, you got it. Let's talk center position. Embiid, Towns, Drummond. All the fantastic center plays on the. Jaylen Brown is out. Oh, should we really quickly go back to Marcus Smart and see what his multiplier is since we're doing this?
Yeah, let's see. He is at
1.7.
Well, he's now in play.
Yeah, that changes the slate a lot, in my opinion, because we talked about Tatum getting Giannis defense. Marcus Smart could have a big game today.
Yeah, son of a biscuit.
Or Gordon Hayward at 1.65.
Yeah, they're all in play now. Even Tatum, potentially in play now at 1.5.
Fun stuff. Glad it happened right when we were in the middle of the show. It was fun.
Yeah, very, Very applicable.
Got to go adjust some rankings. Let's talk center position, Grant. Embiid, Towns, Drummond, the 3 top centers on the slate. They're all 1X, but when we look at center, like center's a position that I don't hate getting these 1X guys.
Yeah. I don't mind that. I don't mind going with Cat. I mean, you want 80-point upside at center, and he's got 80-point upside. Realistically, and he's got 80 points twice already. So Towns very, very much in play here. I don't think I go Drummond. I don't think I go Embiid. I want a little bit more upside than that, and Cat's the one I feel like really offers it. So at the 1X multiplier, Towns is the only guy I'm considering.
Yeah, I don't mind Embiid either. I think Drummond's the least of those 3. I think I'd rank him 3rd there. Scrolling down, Robinson's kind of interesting at 1.5 going up against Orlando, but honestly, like, I don't love a lot of these centers today. Like, you can make an argument for Zeller and Tristan Thompson, but like, there's a good chance on center today I'm using Cat or Embiid.
Yeah, Montrezl Harrell without Kawhi in there could be in. Like, it should be a closer game. He could see a little bit extra usage. I don't like the matchup versus Gobert, but 1.55x multiplier, he offers you enough upside. Whiteside, and still Whiteside, and Thompson's been putting up big games. Both of them at 1.7 are good plays, but that's really it for me.
Just kind of making sure I'm not missing anybody. Yeah, but yeah, I'm probably using, like, I guess like Zeller is really another guy that I really don't hate at 1.6. He certainly has some upside here up against Sacramento. So, any final thoughts? Any words of wisdom before we get out of here?
If you're over the age of 13, probably don't go trick or treating tomorrow.
13 is that the number?
I have no idea, honestly. I just figure once you're a teenager, I mean, candy's not that expensive, and candy's bad for you. Candy's delicious, but I don't know. I don't know what the actual age is. If you're in college, don't go trick or treating.
Do you want to guess how many bags of candy I handed out last year? You want to wild guess?
It's Florida. I know people in Florida really like their sugar. 7.
11. I live in a neighborhood that, like, everybody does their houses up big, and like everybody does Halloween big, and like we get a lot of trick or treaters. 11 bags of candy last year. So
impressive, my friend.
Yep. So I have 8 bags right now, and I have all my family that comes over. That's the rule. They have to bring a bag of candy if they want to park at my house.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, he is Genie from Stevie. Hope you guys enjoyed. It's SuperDraft.io. Awesome sponsor, and we love playing there. Like, Grant and I play there almost every night. I know Grant plays there every night for sure. I try to play there all the time. So we're going to get out of here. Use the promo code Grinders. Get that $10, and we'll see you next Wednesday for another lineup building show.
Tickets.